Brodes Media.
Howie's in the lab. Okay? Howie's always in the lab. What's up, everybody? Before we talk more about this Eagles move, welcome on into the channel. If you are new here, make sure you end up hitting that subscribe button and that thumbs up button. Welcome to the family here. I greatly appreciate it. We talk Philly sports every day, okay? And I love you to be a part of it. I'd love for you to be a part of it. Also, you can take me on the road with you by going to Apple Podcast and Spotify and searching Sports Talk with Brodes. And if you leave a 5-star rating and a review, that will truly help out the algorithm. So you guys are the greatest. I love you to death. Lastly, we do live stream twice a week here on YouTube, which is 8 times a month. Coffee with Brodes. The way you get access to that is you join the memberships down below for a price of $4.99 a month. You also get access to our Discord channel. It's been a blast. Super fun. I absolutely love it. You guys are tremendous. So make sure you check out all the information in the description. Thank you guys all so much and enjoy the show. What's going on, everybody? Welcome on into Sports Talk with Brodes. Howie Roseman never stops adding to this team. Howie Roseman never stops picking up the phone. Howie Roseman is always dialed in to putting better talent around his quarterback. And that's a beautiful thing. Jahan Dotson, welcome aboard. Welcome to Philly. I have to admit, though, the first second I saw the report that the trade was going down, I wondered why. Why would Washington move him? What am I missing? Is there something that's brutally wrong with the player? Or is this the Commanders making a mistake? Or is this the Commanders getting a fresh new sense of life and they're trying to cut bait with players that maybe they deem not their standard? I'm not sure. Cameron Wolf of NFL Network, though, said that he's been having a very shaky camp, and Dan Quinn listed Zacchaeus over him on the depth chart. Now, they could be making a brutal mistake. Maybe their depth chart is completely off. Or there's reality to the drop rate problems. There's a reality with the confidence issues. And even if that is the case, I still think it's a decent calculated risk by Howie. If it doesn't work, I know there were some other moving parts involved, but essentially they gave up a third, which is okay value. It's not nothing. Nakobe Dean might be one of your best linebackers this season, right? 3rd-round draft pick. Jalix Hunt might be something really impressive. 3rd-round draft pick. So it's not as if the 3rd-round draft pick is nothing, but if you project him getting back on track, with the other team's defense clearly focusing more on A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Saquon Barkley, Dallas Goedert, Jalen Hurts himself, and then Jahan Dotson, that's a totally different role from what he was accustomed to with Washington. And remember, he was dealing with Washington when they were through the Dan Snyder era, so I'd have to imagine that the morale wasn't very positive. So sometimes a change of scenery can do wonders. But what I'm not going to do is just pretend that this is automatically a home run. I do like the swing. This is Howie Roseman being in the batter's box and taking a fat hack. I like it. Young, but still a couple years under his belt. Financially, nothing that's going to annihilate you or crush you. High upside. And they desperately needed to look at that 3rd wide receiver spot and make an addition. Because they had names that can maybe hold the fort down. Paris Campbell, Johnny Wilson, Britton Covey apparently has made some noise in camp. Who else is out there? John Ross. Now, some of these names were dealing with concussion protocol stuff. But those names could have been okay. This, though, the upside of Dotson is way higher than any of those names. There's versatility inside and outside. And if there is someone that goes down for a few weeks, if they're nursing an ankle injury or somebody has a hamstring problem, and I'm talking about the ones above him on the depth chart, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, he brings a skill set that in a pinch, I think you can work with. And not only if they get banged up, but if you're looking for matchups and you want to line A.J. Brown up in an interesting spot to see if he can eat another defender alive, or if you look at Devontae Smith as someone you want to target and you go, yo, dude, look what we can do if we can mix some things around and Kellen Moore can dip into his bag of creativity. Because you can work with Dotson inside and out, it can now line other receivers up differently where you can go to work. So I like it. In theory, I think there's a lot you can do with design here. But it all comes down to, is he going to have the confidence? Does he have the swag? Or is it similar to Quez Watkins where he's in his own head? He could be wide open because everyone's focused on the other top tier weapons on your roster, and it hits him in the hands, it hits him in the helmet, and we got a problem with the drop rate. Is this Nelson Aguilar? Where some days it's flashy and some days he shows signs of what he can be, but then there's a wide open pass over the middle of the field, and let's say Dotson's running in the slot, and he's got 50 yards of wide open space in front of him, and he doesn't secure the pass, and he drops it. He puts his head down as he's walking back to the huddle, because I do believe that that's going to be a part of this. I hope I'm wrong, though. I hope he's so inspired to play for a team that actually has a purpose, to play for a team that's dialed in to go win a championship, and he's out of that dumpster fire organization. Being around winners can absolutely make you change your mentality with it. There's also added pressure, though. You better perform. And if he was dealing with something upstairs in his brain where he wasn't feeling 1,000% and he was doubting himself, when there's 60,000 people breathing down your neck at the link and we are screaming at the top of our lungs expecting you to make the plays that you got to make. And look, I've seen some highlights of him being able to make some tough catches, right? So it's not impossible. But realistically, you know what the job is? The job is to make the catches that you need to make. The simple catches, the routine catches, the fundamental catches. You know, look, there's probably going to be some scenarios where it's a tough catch that I look back at and say he probably should have made it, but I get it. He's a third wide receiver who's being traded and sold for not that crazy of a draft pick for a reason. You know what I'm saying? He's not going to be perfect by any means. But if you're wide open and the other guys are covered and Jalen looks your way and you have a DB on you that can't sniff you, make the damn catch. So I'm cautiously optimistic. And another part of this, too, is how many times have I looked at a team on paper and think to myself, they're special, they're crazy good. If it all works out, how many times does it work out the way that I want it to? Not as much as I would like to admit. So what else here? The drop rate, the confidence issue. I understand why the instant thoughts were highway robbery. And it's funny, Wale is getting all pissed off on Twitter, and he's tweeting about it. I follow a couple of people who are in the music industry that are Washington Commanders fans, and they're like, please, come on, you're telling me we send off someone that we still have high hopes to turn it around. And not only that, you're shipping him to the Eagles, to an NFC East Division rival. They're looking for a fresh new regime of smart decision-making, and now they're wondering, what do we have here in Joshua Harris? And I know we laugh at that, knowing that they own the Sixers, and we're in a tough spot with them. But remember, Dan Snyder, significantly worse than Joshua Harris and David Blitzer. It's not even close. It's not even close. I like the calculated risk. A lot of what we've seen in Washington, I don't want to say it's irrelevant. Numbers, receptions, touchdowns. It's not irrelevant because it shows you what he's capable of doing. But the role that he'd be in here, it's not the same level of intensity. And you're not getting matched up with the same level of cornerbacks. And the defense, I promise you, when the defense is game planning all week long and they're studying the film and they're watching the tape and they're trying to get into the tendencies of what Kellen Moore and the Philadelphia Eagles like to do, his name may never even pop up. Now it will, but what, 6th? After they spend an hour, 2 hours, 3 sessions on AJ, Devontae, and Barkley? Right? I'm sure this is what they'll say. Don't fall asleep. Whatever you do not pretend he can't beat you. All right, let's get back to what AJ does. And that's it. You gloss over it. So if there is an opportunity when they all start snoozing on Dotson because they're aware that you could put the ball in AJ's hands rather quickly and he could work with space yards after the catch, or Devontae tippy-toeing his way down the sidelines. Where's Dotson? Holy shit! He's 15 yards past me! He's putting his hands up, and Jalen drops a dime. Now, speaking of Jalen, I can't believe it. He threw an interception in training camp. Oh, no. Maybe that's a good thing, though. Get it out of the way, all right? Because all the pressure of knowing you didn't throw one at all at camp and then you head into Brazil, he doesn't need that. Honestly, though, all jokes aside, I love the ESP training camps stats. You can laugh about it all you want and say it's stupid, this and that. It's training camp. We're trying to get the juices flowing a little bit. So he has fun with, he hasn't thrown an interception. All jokes aside, seriously, to go through that many practices without throwing one at all, that's hard to do. It's hard to do. And it wasn't just because he's playing it safe and dumping it off and this and that. That's not what it is. I loved it. And now that camp is over and all, and we got one more preseason game, and it'll be fun to see Cooper DeJean maybe lace them up. And the last I saw, he was speaking with some of the reporters a day ago at the end of training camp and mentioned wanting to be out there. So we'll see what happens. But man, I'm intrigued to see him. I mean, I know we got one game left before the action sneaks up on us for real on Friday night in Brazil under the lights, which is just going to be so sick. What is that, like an 8:30 game here? Should probably know that, right? That should be a countdown on my wall and a big countdown on my clock. That just has, instead of what time it is in the day, it just has a countdown of when the Eagles finally kick the ball off for the first time. There is still more to be done, though, if you're Howie. I know that's hard to ask, considering everything he's done this offseason. The left side of the line, Saquon, CJ, some of the draft moves, Cooper DeJean, Quinyon Mitchell, and I'm even intrigued to see Quinyon Mitchell in the slot. Don't know if they necessarily saw that when they made the selection, but with Isaiah Rodgers and Slay, I mean, I'm very intrigued to see how this team plays under Vic Fangio. Vic's got a little John Tortorella in him. If you're not going to do it the right way, you're not going to go out there and do it for me. I'm sorry. Sit your ass on the damn bench. So there's going to be fire involved, big time. There's going to be this sense of urgency, the complete opposite from what we get with Rob Thompson sometimes. Okay, it's 8:15. That's what I thought. I just don't know what time it is in Brazil. Although I don't think it's as wild as it is. I think it's like an hour or two, something along those lines. Regardless, not that crazy of of information here. We don't need that right now. What we need is to take a pause for a second and hear about my great friend Chris Gates and his online fitness training camp that you absolutely want to be a part of. Chris has been an online coach for over 6 years, and you will be getting top-notch guidance with what he provides online. His clients consistently get results by implementing a flexible approach to diet and exercise. So if you are interested in getting brand new workout programs every month so you can achieve your health and fitness goals, fitness challenges every month to help push you to develop healthy habits, challenges where you can win awesome prizes, access to live Q&As, and a support group and a community of people there to encourage you every step of the way, make sure you check out chrisgatesfitness.com/training camp or click the link down below in the description. Right now, there will be weekly football pick'ems that get rolling here at the end of August where winners can get free supplements from Legion Athletics. And there's also a step count challenge in September where a winner will win a free walk pad treadmill. If you sign up with promo code Brodes, you will get your first month 50% off. I actually had a couple people sign up and reach out to me via DM saying, Brodes, this has been one of the greatest transitions I've made in my life. I needed this badly. I needed a kick in the ass. I needed to get sweat going. And Chris Gates has helped them out so much. You will be a fool not to check things out. Sign up, promo code Brodes, check out the first month, and then you're going to realize real quick, holy hell, this is life-changing. Check out the link down below in the description and get started. Okay, we got anytime hotlines on the Dotson trade. We got text messages. I also have audio here, though, of Nick Serianni. And I'm not trying to just rip him apart, but he said something in his media availability on Wednesday that made me crack up. And I get it, I'm biased, but I just couldn't believe he actually said this out loud. This is Nick Serianni trying to find ways to evolve as a coach. Take a listen.
You know, one thing that I read when I was reading a leadership book this off season was, if you want everyone around you to have accountability and you want yourself to have accountability, then you fussing at the refs is not. It's almost like, hey, this happened, so I'm going to blame that. Right, and so when I heard that, when I read that, I was like, yeah, that hit me like some sort of way. Like when I think about me, with a referee potentially on the sideline, I'm like, and I complain about a call. Is that really sending the right message to the rest of the team as far as our accountability goes? Again, when something goes wrong, the answer should be, how do we fix this and what are the solutions, as opposed to looking for a scapegoat, I guess to say, is how I read it in the book.
All right, I'm going to pause it there for a second. This is a National Football League head coach, and you're telling me he needed to read a book? If I heard this correctly, he read a book to teach him not to blame referees, because that could be a bad look for his team. And what he should be doing, instead of blaming the refs, is try and find answers? You didn't know that prior to last season? And here's another thing. And this is almost credit to Nick. Not that he hasn't been mad at referees, but all coaches have been mad at referees. My takeaway of Nick Serianni isn't he's mad at the refs too much. Now, maybe there's been times where we see him getting angry and whatnot, and we bring that up, but not to the point where it's so obnoxiously pathetic, embarrassing that he's constantly just nonstop so focused on the refs that nothing else even matters around him anymore. You know what I mean? It's not like it's all Nick Serianni has ever done is focused on refs. There's been pockets of moments, but that's any NFL head coach ever. So one of his big ways of trying to evolve, and there's nothing wrong. I'm not ripping him for reading a book about leadership. I do think that that's something a lot of people do. I don't think trying to evolve is a bad thing either, because it's better than sitting there and saying, well, this is who I am, so shove it, and this is who I'm going to be. So I'm not going to make any sort of positive advancements in my career with leadership. That's silly. I like the idea of him trying to improve and getting knowledge and getting information on things that could maybe spark him in the right direction. Like, that's good stuff. So I'm not knocking that approach. But I think it's a little silly to mention one of the biggest takeaways from the book I read is I have to stop blaming the refs, and instead I should start to look for reasons why these things are going wrong. That should have been the first thing you've ever done, is let me self-assess my offense. Let me self-assess my team. Let me self-assess everything surrounding what I do, and let's see if we can find answers. That's step one. That's step one. I don't know. There's a little more here. I'll let it play out.
And that hit me a certain way because, you know, with our core values being what they are,
of course,
our connect, our accountability, our toughness, our detail, with our core values being that, and accountability being such a big one, I looked at that as that doesn't mean like I'm not going to be perfect. I already know.
All right, kids, shut up. I can't even hear. So what do you want me to do? I felt like the Eagles did that on purpose. We're going to have all the kids screaming around a little bit just so nobody can hear and Brodes can't rip apart Nick Serianni. I truly believe that. All right, before we take anytime hotline calls, let's hear from Ross Tucker. Always does a tremendous job, and he broke down the trade and the addition of Jahan Dotson.
It is hard not to love the Jahan Dotson trade for the Philadelphia Eagles. What's up, everybody? Ross Tucker with my latest Ross report, talking about the Birds. First of all, he played high school football in Eastern Pennsylvania up in Nazareth, and he went to Penn State. So I'm already going to love it for that. But the guy averaged 15 yards a catch and had 7 touchdowns as a rookie. He has more touchdowns than guys in his draft class like Drake London, Chris Olave. He has inside-outside versatility. The Eagles now control his rights for 3 more years if they elect to pick up the 5th-year option. The big reason why I think they did this is in case something happens to A.J. Brown or Devontae Smith, they wanted to have a guy that they felt comfortable starting and a guy that can be their number 3 receiver. You got to love this move if you're an Eagles fan. Ross Reports presented by Chris Gates Fitness.
Whoa, how about that? Gotta love Chris Gates Fitness. Seriously, though, when it comes down to the ceiling of what he could be if they could maximize him, that's scary. That is a scary trio around the NFL. If he's your 3rd guy, they just have to figure him out. It's not, I don't think it's going to be as simple as he gets slotted in here, boom, let's rock, they got a steal, this kid's perfect, and we're good to go. I think there are things that you somewhat have to rebuild with him, whether it's confidence, whether there's mechanical reasons why maybe he lost his confidence, and you got to work with it. But it will be a little bit easier of a transition to get back on track when you aren't one of the main guys, when you're not a huge staple and one of the it receivers that has to go beat top tier DBs on a consistent basis, and now you're the added bonus, now you're the sweetener, now you're that little off to the side dessert. It's not the same as being the main course, you know what I mean? And if that's the case, you got some room to operate out there. So I'm really looking forward to it. I'm excited. I think it made a lot of sense. They needed another body. They needed to go into the year with a little bit more oomph. The only other spot we're looking at now, which I don't think I touched on this, even though I teased it a little earlier, is the right guard position, because Tyler Steen already nursing something, and Mekhi Becton, same thing. And I'm not even sure how great Mekhi Becton is going to be. it wasn't as much of a competition as I thought. Maybe it's because Tyler Steen wasn't really upright. He tried. He gave it everything he could, and I think that showed you how desperate he was to try and stay in this race, but ultimately it didn't seem even close when Mekhi Becton is chilling on the sidelines in a second preseason game rather early, and Steen all bandaged up and hobbling around is out there playing in a preseason game. So I don't know what's going on there with the depth. And we are so used to having so much depth. I'm nervous. Maybe Howie's still in Howie mode. We can't ever put it by him because he never sleeps. He's always going full throttle. But we'll see what ends up happening. All right, let's hear from the great people. Let's do it.
Brodes, we got a wide receiver 3. What's going on, bro? I'm so psyched. And it's especially really good when you got like Commanders fans and Commanders artists saying like, why they let him go? Why they let him go? We needed him. What are we going to do now with the receivers we got now? So, yeah, this is the receiver we needed. So ecstatic. I feel like we got the best receiver trio in the league. Let's go, bros. Appreciate everything you do. Keep going, bro.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate the kind words. Oh, there's no doubt on paper that they have arguably the best trio at the wide receiver position in all of the league. And then adding Goddard and Saquon Barkley, and then Will Shipley even filtered in the mix a little bit. I mean, there's some serious stuff here. And like Kellen Moore, let's go, baby. There's not many excuses anymore. This thing better be number 1, number 2 in the entire NFL. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. This needs to be top NFL offense. Can't be 6, can't be 7. If you're 6 or 7, how? You know what I mean? How? If you're 5, how? Something must be going wrong. Because there's too many machines behind this offensive line. The only way that it could be that way is if there's some injuries limiting you. Or if Jalen Hurts is not as strong as I predict him to be. I expect Jalen to have an MVP season. One thing that Jalen seems to thrive off of, whether he admits it or not, is the doubt. Is people questioning him. He calls it rat poison, but that's a bunch of BS. I think when everybody shoots him down and wonders if he could hit a certain level, that motivates him. That fuels him. He goes to work differently. And you're going to see that. Last year, a lot of the problems stemmed from the incompetent scheme. But I also thought he was injured. And we'll probably see that early with how Jalen Hurts is moving. He's going to be moving a little bit more efficiently. The early bye week is always going to concern me because you know how it goes once you get to week 11, week 12, week 13, and you've been through a lot of tough games and your body is hurting. It sucks that your bye week is so early in the season. But I'm expecting big things from Jalen. And I get the excitement for looking at the trio that we have here and all the skill position guys. This is arguably the best roster offensively that we'll ever see. I'm 29 years old. I can't imagine another time in my life where it's this stacked. This stacked. I guess I can't rule out Howie Roseman still being the general manager when I'm 75 and he does it again. It's wild to think we went from the Andy Reid times where we're screaming, dude, we are so damn desperate. Go get somebody, please. And now it's this? I'm sure you've all seen it, but it wasn't too long ago. It was the Raegers, the J.J. Arthega-Whites, Greg Ward. Remember how much we used to talk about Greg frickin' Ward? Greg Ward. Greg Ward's a practice squad guy. He was our number 1. Oh, my God. He was our number 1. we may never see more talent on a roster offensively again. All right, why don't we read a couple of text messages here? Mark in West Philly texts in and says, this is what Howie does. Another steal. Why do other GMs even answer the phone when he calls, especially Joshua Harris and that group over there? Because they should know better with how much this town calls Howie the GOAT. But they don't really care about this city. Fuck them. Anyway, enough about those assholes. Oh, my God, you're killing me, Mark. Just picture what Dotson can do with Kellen Moore and his ability to drive an offense. This offense is going to be number one in the league. Go Birds. It better be. It better be. Mark, you're killing me, man. That's funny stuff about the Joshua Harris stuff. I kind of figured it would take that path, though, at some point. Yeah, dude. I agree. I agree. I guess it's the pessimistic side in me, though, that wonders, is it too good to be true? Is it really possible where there's something that's handed to you so easily and you take it from Washington and it's just going to pan out perfectly? Let's try and label it with something similar. And I'm just spitballing here, but I don't know. The Mets, for example. The Mets always met. They don't want Zach Wheeler. We get Zach Wheeler. Zach Wheeler's arguably the best pitcher in baseball. With that said, they didn't want Taijuan Walker. We wanted Taijuan Walker. Taijuan Walker's a stiff. So, is Dotson, if we're going to look at the Commanders as possibly a poorly ran organization like the Mets are, even though it's a brand new life to them, is Dotson Zach Wheeler? And not to that level of dominance, by the way, but just in regards of panning out, or is it Taijuan Walker? I guess only time will tell. Number one offense in the league. Good. I love it, Mark. That's the way it needs to go. There's no sugarcoat in this. You have to be at the tippy top of the mountain when you have this much scary talent. TJ says, hey, Brodes, fans are definitely excited, and I see why. Jahan should be a great fit in the depth chart behind some of the stars we already have in place. Whenever there's a weird move like this, though, I have to wonder I have to wonder why the trade was made. Is there something that we are missing? What do you think about that? No, trust me, TJ, I get it. I'd be lying if I pretended that wasn't even a thought. Of course, yes, it's odd. It's odd. But I also don't think it's ludicrous to wonder if you could tap into that potential. Throughout sports, no matter what sport it is, a lot of organizations see talent, raw natural ability, and think, I could fix that. Hell, isn't Nelson Aguilar still kicking around in this damn league? People always think, if I can get my hands on them, I can change things. Sometimes they're right, sometimes they're wrong. There are times where I think it's manageable to take a swing. And if you fail, you may fail. But what you gave up to try it isn't going to destroy you. It's a decent pick you gave up. You didn't give up a first-round pick, a second-round pick. And while you have multiple third-rounders, and they're going to end up getting the better of the two, Howie's going to get that thing back in a second. Okay? Howie's so smart. You got the luxury of working around some of these trades because he'll find ways to get that third-round pick back. You know what happens all the time in those random fifth rounds? Here's a fifth, you get a fourth for next year, then you trade that fourth for a third for the following year. You turn a fifth into a third over a couple of years, and blah, 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 blah. You know, I'm just saying that's what Howie does. So trust me, we'll be okay. We'll find another way to get a third-round pick if you're that desperate to get one. Last text I'll read here is from Dimitri. No excuses for Jalen. I don't want to hear about the lack of help. He better have an MVP season. Time's yours, Jalen. Is that a little Andy Reid in there? I expect Jalen to pop off, though. I'm not worried, Dimitri. It seems like you're a Jalen Hurts hater. You don't want to hear about it. You won't. Don't worry about it, Dimitri. You won't. Jalen's going to ball. Jalen's going to be a stud. Jalen's going to be the best quarterback in the NFC. Better than Goff, better than Stafford, better than Dak, better than Purdy. Am I missing somebody? Jordan Love is on the up and up. Jalen's going to be the best quarterback in the NFC. No doubt about it. All right, everybody, that'll do it. Appreciate it. You guys are the best. You know I love you. Talk to y'all on the next one.